your views just before the end of the program. Let's get back to the studio discussion here with Benji Ndolo. Before we get to Ukambani, we've seen the president kind of vouching for a six-piece voting, and we've seen even the opposition doing this. But when it comes to Ukambani, we have Wiper, like in Kitui, we have Charity Ngilu, who is also in NASA. We have Governor Malombe, who's in Wiper and is in NASA. Is it going to be hard for NASA to keep at the six-piece narrative, especially in dynamic areas, if I could call it that, like Ukambani?
Yes, that's an interesting point. I'd just like to make the point, by the way, Akisa. The president obviously is an extrovert, so he looks to me like he's enjoying campaigning.
He thrives.
The only thing that he enjoys more than campaigning, in my observation, is shaking hands. I saw him at KCC earlier this morning, and just the shaking hands was just absolutely, it's a thing for him. He looks forward to it. He's having the time of his life. Having said all of that, the difference between the president's strategy and the NASA strategy is very simple. Jubilee Party, JP, collapsed into one outfit. That's very different from Raila talking about six-piece. Because when Raila talks about six-piece, and I'll give you an example, he's talking about six-piece ODM. That actually works against his partners, all right? So that's an oversight, an overkill on their part. I don't know how well they've, made these calculations. And one example I'd like to give you, Akisa, is Nairobi, where just this morning, there's a huge debate in the media about the fact that Esther Passaris of ODM is going to be facing Ndambuki, some lady, Miss Ndambuki, for the woman rep seat in Wiper.
And they're in the same coalition.
That doesn't make sense. It means then, it makes you question the sincerity of the bonds, of what they've signed, which has larger ramifications if you look at the fact that Raila has said that if they get it, he'll go for one term. Really? One term? The term goes, really fast, and then potentially that would be another, issue and another fight down the road because, there was also the other MOU that they talked about. Basically, there's so many things going on. And in Ukambani, on the part of Mheshimiwa Kalonzo, there's too many fires at the same time and too many gaps and too many inconsistencies, again, for it to be a coincidence. I'll give you an example. There's a big fight going on right now with Wavinya Ndeti. But really, a few weeks ago, Wavinya Ndeti was, for all intents and purposes, in Jubilee. And I think also, if you check the record, appointed by the president in a board. A lot of the Wiper rebels, like Mheshimiwa Joe Mutambo of Mwingi Central, says that when he defected to Jubilee, it is Wavinya who welcomed him. Now, this is not to say that people cannot change minds, but
is it too suspect?
It's too suspect. And then given also the wars, there's too many things, Akisa, going on. There's the conflict with Senator Mudhama, who has now basically jumped out and not even offered himself for leadership. Fine. There's the conflict with Governor Mutua, who was just on a big show, JKL, the other day, really doing damage to the party, the brand of Kalonzo, etc. There's the rebel MPs, who many of them, you could argue don't stand a chance to be re-elected. However, they're still doing the damage that is there. There's a reality on the ground of, a lot of the urgent needs for water, for farming, for food, with all the hardships there. There's the crisis of Mheshimiwa Kalonzo nominating his own son. That's been resisted. That's playing badly in the public eye. All of these are happening at the same time. There's the conflict again with things said by Mheshimiwa Nyanze,
yes, and
which
I was getting to that.
Which he defended the other day, and now Nyanze yesterday campaigning for the president in Jubilee. And finally, the immediate former chairman, Musila, who I spoke to this morning on a broadcast, very angry about many things, and he's immediate former chairman. So, I said, Chairman, do you guys feel you've built this party? And he's like, no, this is a party that has a lot of issues that have been there for a long time. So I think for us younger leaders, it's also to learn because this level of chaos, how do you even concentrate on a presidential campaign, Akisa, with this level of issues pretty much on a daily basis?
Will all this drama in Wiper bring down NASA?
it will hurt NASA. It cannot help. It cannot give you momentum. Especially for the simple fact, Akisa, first of all, that it's also confusing. I am from Ukambani. I'm a farmer in Kangut. I'm getting a lot of calls like, what's happening? Is Mudhama bringing a new party? Is there a bigger fight? Is something the matter? Was someone denied their cut or whatever? I mean, there's a lot of things that people are not understanding why the energy is not being harnessed together to surge forward, and a lot of unknowns. I mean, just the other day, Wavinya had been disqualified, so now she's on a court order. Who knows, with the courts, it keeps changing. Who knows what's going to come, next week or the week after. So these are the things being discussed in different Mitandao, WhatsApp groups and whatnot. Certainly doesn't help, doesn't give the confidence, the unity, the sense of purpose. And of course, if you notice, Raila is kind of quiet on this. So you imagine that he's watching from a distance and thinking, what the heck is going on? And he also has a fair share of issues, but not to this level, not to this extent.
So can NASA really bank on having unwavering support from Ukambani like what was witnessed in 2013?
Good question. I think from Ukambani, they can bank on 60-70% at least. But the fact of the matter is that with this level of noise, Akisa, it's dawning on even the lowly citizens of Ukambani that after 30 plus years, you've got to really question the leadership of Kalonzo and where he's going and where he's taking the community, so to speak, and the country. That these are the heavy questions that sooner or later must be asked and must be dealt with and tackled. Yeah.
All right, and as we're talking about Ukambani, let's just take a quick look at how they voted in 2013 to get more context on this conversation I'm having here with Benji Ndolo. So Kitui County in 2013, 80% of them voted for Raila Odinga. That is 219,588 votes. 15% of them voted for Uhuru Kenyatta, 40,752. The governor, of course, is Julius Malombe. From the Wiper Democratic Movement Kenya, who is seeking to defend his seat. Senator David Musila also seeking to unseat Malombe, as well as Charity Ngilu also seeking to unseat Malombe. The women representative there in Winfred Nyiva Mwendwa. And we have a number of leaders in the National Assembly from that particular county, all of them except one from Kitui South. Rachel Kaki Nyamai got into the House thanks to the Wiper Democratic Movement Party.
No, to the NAC.
Rachel Nyamai is from NAC.
Yes.
She's the only one who got into Parliament with a different party than. Thank you for that correction,
no problem, dear.
Benji. So, of course, the representation of the 40 elected county ward representatives, 26 of them are from Wiper, 6 of them are from NAC, 3 of them from CCU, 2 from TNA, 1 from Muungano Party, 1 from People's Party of Kenya, and 1 from the Independent Party. Now, let's go to Machakos County, where 86% of the voters there voted for Raila Odinga, higher than what we saw in Kitui with 80%. 10% of them voted for President Uhuru Kenyatta, 35,660, and lower than what we've seen in Kitui, because Kitui, 15% of them voted for Uhuru. The governor, of course, is Alfred Mutua, who is now the party leader of Maendeleo Chap Chap. Remember, Wavinya Ndeti will be taking him head on for the gubernatorial seat of Machakos County. Wavinya Ndeti with the Wiper Party. Of course, we have Senator Johnston Muthama, who says he is no longer interested in vying for this particular seat. Women representative there is Susan Binya Musyoka. But we have someone else from Jubilee who has organized that rally in Machakos right now, Agnes Kavindu Muthama, who's also seeking to unseat Susan Musyoka for the women representative seat in Machakos County. Let's take a look at their representation in Parliament 1 from Ford People, 1 from Muungano, 1 from Independent Party.
Tip.
Tip, yes, and 3 from the Wiper Party and 2 from CCU. That is Machakos County for you, the kind of representation they have in Parliament. And from the ward representatives, 20 of them are from Wiper, 4 from CCU, 1 from Tip, and as well as the Muungano Party. All right. Let's move on and see how they voted in Makueni County. 91% voted for Raila Odinga, 228,843, with Uhuru running away with a paltry 5%, 12,652. We have Governor Kivutha Kibwana of Muungano Party now, of course,
Wiper,
defending his seat with Wiper Party. Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. took over from his father, will definitely be defending his seat as well. Women representative is Rose Museo from the Wiper Democratic Party. Let's take a look at how the National Assembly representation from the kind of parties they are from. 5 of them actually from the Wiper Party, and 1 person, Kibwezi West Member of Parliament Patrick Mweu Musimba, who is an independent candidate. He will be running once again as an independent candidate. Seemingly 1 person who's not interested in party politics.
Interesting point, Akisa. There, I was just making a point on an earlier broadcast this morning. There are, just for clarification's sake, for the sake of our viewers, there are really, for all intents and purposes, if you read the Constitution, Article 85, there are 3 independents in Kenya. 1 is Honorable Gatobu, elected in Meru, National Assembly, Member of Parliament. The next is Patrick Musimba, Kibwezi, good friend of mine. He is a true independent candidate. The other is Governor aspirant Miguna. A lot of the rest then have been in parties, have been, seeking nominations in parties.
Disgruntled
and they're completely disgruntled, jumping ship at the last minute, I think led by Kabogo and others, talking about independent candidature, kayak, whatever it is. That's true definition of independent is these 3. You see Musimba there, very interesting. And why this is an important point, Akisa, is because, again, we're not going to make much progress if we don't start building real, organic, ideological, ideas-driven parties. If we continue on this ethnic mobilization thing, then it's just a big, numbers game, which doesn't really translate to anything. Makueni was interesting. If you look at that, I believe it was such a blowout, 91%.
91%.
Because of the opposition to Uhuru that was there from the late Mutula Kilonzo, which was very complex, and happened to have advised on the subsequent by-election, and the sentiment really against the government was so strong and so bad. And so once again, the lessons to learn here, but again, got to make the point that if we don't move away from just assembling tribes to something more meaningful, then it's really hard to, for the voters, Akisa, to harvest mangoes when they've planted sisal seeds. Because everyone talks about good leadership and we need inspiration, etc., but you just went and just sought, Luya Kingpin. So where is a good leader going to come from? Yeah, sorry to interrupt you.
All right, it's fine, Benji. Quickly, I want us to go to another rally. From these numbers we've seen and the overwhelming support that was there for Raila Odinga, are they likely to get the same numbers, more or less?
I think a little less, Akisa. Good question. A little less. They were really hopeful that the flag bearer would be their son. So that drawn-out process on the flag bearer was a drag on the momentum, on the speed, on the efficiency of the coalition. And there's also some doubt, on their part. There's also some doubt that, Raila has tried for 2 decades.
Okay.
How do we know that this time he'll be successful? So I've had those discussions.
All right.
You can expect good support, but less.
Okay,
yes.
Let's go to that Jubilee rally once again in Mavoko, just to listen into what is being said. The Jubilee rally, the live pictures we are bringing you from Mavoko. Remember, a number of Jubilee leaders, most of them candidates from various areas in the country, pitching a tent in Machakos today. Speaking currently is, I could call him veteran politician. He's been on our scenes for a while, Kalembe Ndile. Let's just listen in.
And he's a good campaigner, by the way.
Yeah, he is. Let's just take a look at what he has to say.
Watu wa makutano mjambo. Wewe ni museo. Na mapida onde. Unajua ile inanishangaza watu wa makutano. Hata huko bunge inakuaga namna hii. Unakuta watu wa Jubilee wametulia kama hawa wangwana wako hapa. Unakuta ukiangalia wengine wachache. Inakuwa tu namna hiyo. Lakini uzuri tushawazoea. Wanapiga makelele siku 2-3 wanaruka hapa na pale, alafu wananyama. Wewe msijali. Hata huko kwetu mimi nalipaga vijana. Nilikwambia nikilipa vijana wapiga makelele ndogo kama hii, mimi siwezi walipa. Hii ni bure kabisa. Tunaelewana? Wewe kama Mungu unaona watu wa makutano. Kama mtu amelipwa afanye ile kazi amelipwa kabisa. Sio makelele ndogo kama hii ya kurukenge. Tunaelewana? Kazi ya bwana woga. Na hii Ukambani tutaingia ndine. Na hakuna pahali tutaingia hapa, tutawita kula. Manaka wa Kamba wamechanuka. Hii sio ile siku ya Molio. Tunaelewana? Hii sio Wakamba, hii ni Wakamba Plus. Semeni Wakamba Plus. Atunasema Ntune. Kama ni Ntune na iko na barabara, Ntune iko na maji, Ntune Katune sijui iko na shule. Sio badali Katune kuliko hii White yao ambayo haina kitu chochote. Bure kabisa wao. Asanteni sana na Mungu awabariki.
Waitu ando
Aya. Tutukuelewana. Waitani tukuelewana. No mea kukwata kamusala. Lakini kaima tia janonu maiki mbana angacha Kalembe. Kile chakula kama Mungu. Loka na pili
Of the leaders, they're addressing crowds. Moses Kuria, Member of Parliament for Gatundu South, among those present in that rally. Kalembe Ndile is speaking currently. But Benji, back into studio. Why is Ukambani very important for both teams?
Just before I go to that question, Akisa, let me just make a casual observation. I'm happy to see a Jubilee entourage in Ukambani, in uniform, so to speak, and there's no semblance of violence at all. We must get to the point in our democracy where you can really just come in and talk about your agenda, because as you can imagine, they could be stoned, there could be a lot of confusion. And so I'm also listening to, what they were saying, etc. And yes, there's a bit of, resistance to their being there. However, it's very important to allow people to peacefully just, talk about their agenda, talk about what they want, and then you can decide, whether you want to align with that or not. But having said that, why is Ukambani important? I think that this is going to be such a hard-fought election that there's going to be a need really to garner as many votes as possible. And so there's no giving up and giving in to the different regions, so to speak. So another way to look at it, Akisa, is that the Jubilee regime refuses to recognize Ukambani as Kalonzo's place, as him being the kingpin, etc. And maybe they're part of a lot of all this noise and confusion that you're seeing. I wouldn't rule that out. And so they're really hoping to get a chunk of that vote out, a clink, might I say, because a chunk might be too big. And other areas such as, by the way, Meru, Kisii, I know they're trying. I don't know how successful they'll be. But again, I must say that until this ICC debate again has begun recently, the fact that there's been a lot of corruption and perception of corruption in Jubilee, combined with the disastrous management of the economy and cost of living, that in itself will sweep any regime out of power. So this is going to be a really tough one. It's going to be a really tough one. But as you've seen with the young fellows, President Uhuru and his deputy, they're also up to the task. They can really get, they can put up a good fight. And so, I don't know. I think it's too early to call. Yeah.
So wait and see scenario.
Yeah, wait and see. But they need to, kind of pick and choose, and add to their column. That's their calculation.
Benji, thank you. Always a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Here
Thank you,
on
madam.
Worldview. Benji Ndolo, political analyst. He says, future leader. Of course, we'll see how that goes.
Yes.
Thank you for